Present, this hybrid meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. If any public speakers on Zoom do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn the meeting. And members are also reminded to activate their microphones before speaking. Thank you. My name is Stephen Hill, I'm the chair for this evening's meeting. To my left is my vice chair, Councillor David Stocker, and to his left is from Democratic Services, Rebecca Perrin. To my right is Andrew Marks, who is the Development Management Service Manager. And to his right is Amy Buckley, who's in charge of the webcasting. We have got two public speakers this evening, and advice for them can be found on pages 5 to 8 of the agenda. But you'll have 3 minutes to state your case, and at the end of the 3 minutes, a buzzer will sound, and if you can wind up pretty quickly.
I think I can do it in 3 minutes. It might just be.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not a public speaker. I've
no.
not done this before. So.
Okay. We'll help you along. And if you can activate your microphone before you start talking, when you're finished, switch it off. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence, for lateness, for Councillor Pugsley.
Oh, thank you. Anyone know anything about him? Shane? No, not Shane. Right, thank you. Declarations of interest. No? Thank you. Minutes as on pages 9 to 16. The agenda, can I confirm those as a true record, take them as read? Thank you. Is there any other business?
No, Chair.
Thank you. The Epping Forest District Council Planning Policy Briefing Note of October 2021 is available on the website and is for noting. Thank you. Item 8, site visits. I take it as no one's notified us previously. There is none. Thank you. So item 9 on pages 17 to 28 of your agenda is a planning application EPF/2072/22 Lee Bank, Meadgate and Hillside Nurseries, Sedge Green, Roydon, Harlow, CM19 5JS. And Andrew will take us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, like you say, this is EPF 2072 of 22, and it's at Lee Bank, Meadgate and Hillside Nurseries in Sedge Green. Yeah.
Are members happy to carry on using the other visual aids? Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, so this is the site here in red. You will see in some aerial photographs that I'll show you in a moment that it forms part of a larger sort of expanse of glass houses in the area. This is it here in the aerial photograph, and you'll note the large expanse of glass houses. So this is just a section of one of the glass houses that is to be changed. And this is what the access, proposed access looks like at the moment from Sedge Green. And this is just a view further down the road with the access point just off picture over here. So this is the proposal on site. As you will see, there's a small building here which they call a welfare block, which is basically an office and toilet block for visitors and staff. And then what you'll see here is 20 storage units, and that's odd. Okay. Yeah, we seem to have some gremlins tonight. It just kicked me out of the Zoom call, but it's back now, so let's see how it goes. There we go. That's the plan that I was trying to call up for you. So what you have here is a small welfare block, like I say, containing some toilets and an office space. And basically, we've got around 20 storage units ranging from between sort of 200 square meters to around 600 square meters to give you a total of around 6,000 square meters of storage space. So there are these sort of larger oblong units over here, and then the smaller units at the front. You will note from the aerial photograph that I showed you just before this that the site is almost fully covered by these glass houses, and the proposal is to reduce the actual bulk down a little, and then to clad the existing skeleton frames of the glass houses with a metal cladding structure. So what you'll see here at the top is the current glass building in its different views, and then below the proposed metal clad storage units, each with a roll-up door. So this is a photograph showing the inside of the building of the glass house. We have received a structural report from the applicant confirming that in their consideration the metal frames can be kept and then reclad in a metal cladding to form the storage units. So just to take members through the details, the report obviously recommends refusal, and the main reasons for refusal you will find on page 26. And in short, basically, we have a greenbelt objection against this, and also the loss of the greenhouses, which is actually a policy in both the old and the new development plans. We are also not convinced by the transport assessment that was submitted to us. I do have to say that we did receive a transport assessment a week or so ago, but obviously that was not submitted in time for us to assess as part of this application process. Then just running through the main planning considerations. So first of all, the impact on the greenbelt. It is so that paragraph 150 of the National Planning Policy Framework does say that one of the exceptions to development in the Greenbelt is the reuse of buildings, which clearly this seems to be. However, our planning officers are of the opinion that the recladding of these glass houses in a metal material, even though they will be smaller than the current building on site, will have an impact on the openness of the Greenbelt, and therefore the development is in principle not acceptable. Then just as important for us, obviously the loss of agricultural glass houses. The applicant did submit a letter that confirms or states that the business is no longer feasible, but like I say, we do have a policy that protects these uses because they clearly produce food in the area. And then the landscape and visual impact forms part of the Greenbelt argument that we've made. The highway safety issue, again, we are aware that there were some emails between Essex County Council and the applicant that we have seen, but the last information that we had formally on our files is that there were concerns with highway safety. The last issue is around the SAC. Unfortunately, the transport assessment that was submitted to us did not convince us regarding the number of trips to and from the site, and therefore, in terms of the SAC, we were not able to confirm that the development would not harm the special areas of conservation. In conclusion, therefore, members, we propose refusal of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. We have one public speaker on this application, and that's Mr. Padalino. As usual, you have 3 minutes, and if you switch your microphone off at the conclusion of your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, members. The application before you this evening is for part conversion of a horticultural site which has been a family business for over 35 years. In September 2021, due to various factors, the nursery businesses faced an increase on gas prices of 480%. Gas prices went up from £1.30 to £6.26 a therm. Potassium chemicals increasing £18 to £40 a bag. 1,000 litres of nitric acid, £400 to £1,480. These increased costs have put a lot of growers in jeopardy. Growers did not plant crops until later that year. Some growers did not plant at all. There are now redundant glass houses over the entire Lee Valley. As previously, some of the growers managed to rent glass houses short term, now the glass houses sit empty. We've all experienced increased utility prices, but this is on a much larger scale. The end-of-year accounts in December 2022 showed a loss of £170,000. The business cannot sustain these heavy losses. Our client instructed our firm based on obtaining a planning approval in Hoe Lane. This was approved under delegated powers for a similar scheme we have this evening. The site is fully occupied, giving the owner some respite. The proposal was for conversion of redundant greenhouses into storage units. A quote from the planning officer's report stated, whilst greenhouses are not considered to constitute permanent buildings and as such would usually not be permitted for conversion to alternative uses, there have been a number of recent exceptions to this. These include recent approvals for a development at Three Ways Nursery. This proposal was granted. Further application granted at Tyler's Cross Nursery for storage units. Another application granted at Sedge Green Nursery, just to name a few. All of these applications were submitted prior to the increased gas prices which have crippled the nursery industry. The relevant exception to this development in Greenbelt in paragraph 150 bracket D, the reuse of buildings provided that the buildings are permanent and substantial construction. This applied to all the previous planning approvals. A structural report was approved. There are no concerns on the structures being converted. We received an email from Highways which was forwarded to planning, and they have agreed with the report which was prepared and raised no objections to the conversion. There is no increase to traffic highway demands. Acoustic report was commissioned, no objections. The proposal shows a reduction of footprint of built form, reduction of 23%. The council argue that this inappropriate development within the Greenbelt, and there are no exceptional circumstances. This development will guarantee the survival of the remaining glasshouse business. This is no different to the applications approved prior to the escalating running costs of the business. We request that the committee this evening debate the current application based on the many approvals that this council have issued in the past and the exceptional circumstances this application carries is to retain a business which has been running for the last 35 years by a hard-working family which now have had to resort to a different type of business which is not in their DNA, but they'll do anything to stay in business. Thank you.
Thank you. This application was called in by Councillor Bassett, so if you'd like to lead off, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I was asked by the Parish Council to call this one in. And basically, they're naturally concerned about the loss of glasshouse industry, and hence why they asked me to call it in. Now, the big problem we have nowadays is, I remember a report when I was chairman of the Food Task Force at this council, which actually stated the minimum size for any glasshouse, and this is back about 5-6 years, was 2 hectares. This is nothing like 2 hectares, and that's before the increases. And to be honest, the only ones now, shall we say, surviving are the bigger ones, which can get economies of scale. And even those, I've talked to some of the MDs of those, they're working on paper-thin margins of 3 and 4%, because there is permanent pressure from the supermarkets for everything to be as cheap as humanly possible. And consequently, that causes problems with the growers. If they want the business, they're almost told how much they're willing to pay. And that is a real problem. Consequently, I think we do need to look at the policy for glass houses and look at what do we do with ones which are no longer viable. Because the last thing we want is, you know, derelict glass houses just sitting there doing nothing and deteriorating, because that as well, you know, doesn't look very pretty. We need something. And to be honest, I've seen most of them that have survived by converting part of their business into something else. And in this case, you know, normally it is storage, and it's more or less open storage in the existing area, which, yeah, it's not growing. And also the growers at the moment can't get staff to actually grow the food, which I'm sure, as farmers know, is very difficult at the moment. So I'm looking at this. I'm not saying, you know, we've got to approve it or anything else, but I think members need to consider, what do we do with redundant glass houses? You know, it's an E13 area, yes, but in the days they were smaller ones could do better. Some went to flowers, and then that business fell apart. And, you know, Epping Forest area there, especially around Nasing, is the cucumber capital of UK, and also with the tomatoes. So it's very specialised, and there is an awful lot of effort in one area. And this makes these smaller ones, even though they get together and they try to work through the bigger glass houses, they struggle. And to be honest, it's an awful lot of hard work for zero return. As we saw from the accounts there, they lost £130,000, and no one can continue like that. It doesn't work. So they've got a choice. They can either just walk away and let the glass fall down, or they try to find something alternate. And, you know, this committee needs to look at it sensibly. And I understand even if we approve it tonight, it will most probably go to DDMC. I'm correct on that, am I, Mr. Marks? Sorry, it's me.
Yes, that's correct.
But I think we do need to look at these things very pragmatically as to what is the best way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews?
Thank you, Chair. Largely, I'd just like to concur with Councillor Bassett. I can offer members sort of first-hand experience who've personally been involved in the agricultural industry. It's what we've heard today is the stark reality of what growers are facing around the UK. But what I would like to stress, in particular with the glasshouse industry, is very much this hasn't been a huge sudden blow just because of the war in Ukraine, or just because of Brexit, or just because of the global economic situation. This has been getting progressively worse and worse and worse for a decade now, and then this has almost been the final blow for a lot of these guys. It's sort of widely known that most of these businesses are either going out of business or they're having to adapt and evolve. While I appreciate we've got a policy with regards to glass houses, I think it would be very wise to review that policy, because I think we're going to potentially tie ourselves in a knot that we're going to end up with a load of empty glass houses that no one's going to do anything with. And obviously the point about effect on the green belt, I would challenge that we're reducing in this particular application, they're reducing the footprint, and you could see from when the image was on the screen the amount of glass houses around that particular one. So looking at this individual case, it's a greenhouse, a block of greenhouse within multiple other greenhouses. So from the outlook on and the impact on the green belt, you can't see it anyway. So having cladding on the outside, I can't see making a big difference, but obviously the bird's eye view would still be the same as well. So for me, it doesn't really affect the green belt issue, and we also can't force businesses to operate at a loss. They won't. So our choice is going to be either engage with these businesses that are trying to adapt and trying to diversify, or end up with a bunch of redundant, falling down glass houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to say I concur with a lot of what's just been said. However, I have to stress that this committee and not even DDMC are the correct forums for defining policy. We can't override and ignore policy that's in place because it would appear to be now out of date as a result of circumstance. Yes, indeed, there must be a change to that policy, particularly with regard to the glass houses, but it needs some very careful thought about what will be acceptable replacement for glass houses if they're not going to be able to thrive as businesses. It could well be that a storage facility such as this may be the answer, but I think we need to look very carefully at the kind of traffic it might generate, what restrictions might be necessary on that storage area. There's a lot of questions to be answered that we certainly can't answer here, and it needs a lot of research before we get round to actually making policy changes. So I think as things stand, I'm going to have to support the officers on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Leppert.
Yeah, I'm also struggling to get to grips with the concept that it's damaging the green belt. Looking at the graphics, essentially it seems like pretty much the same building, but with a different facade or a different material use for the facade. So I wonder if the officer could explain exactly how and why this would damage the green belt, given that there's no encroachment, is there? So.
Yes, like we explained in the report, it's both the materials and also the paraphernalia that goes with the use. So there is a small additional building which will probably not have a massive impact, but it's also the coming and goings of the vehicles and additional hard standing. So all of that put together, we feel that it will have an impact on the openness.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, where I lived as a young girl was all greenhouses across the road from me, and they were left derelict for a long time, and the kids used to all go up there and throw stones and smash them and everything, which is, to me, highly dangerous. Now I'm a grown-up, I wouldn't be doing that sort of thing. But I can't see that it does anyone any favours leaving derelict glass houses there, because it attracts fly tipping, which then costs the council lots of money. It's a danger because kids will go and do things like that because that's what they're like. And I can't see why there can't be other businesses using it. I just don't understand why you'd want to just leave it derelict, let the family go out of business, let people lose their jobs, when it could be giving jobs, which we're supposed to be doing, looking for jobs for people. So I can't support it being refused because I just think it's stupid. And putting a business there, giving people jobs, I mean, for all I know, the family could end up being on the council list and having to support it. So I'd much rather there was jobs there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sartin.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I first of all ask a question around the whole site? Am I to understand that this is only one set of glass houses within a larger site? Can I just ask that question first of all?
So yes, if I perhaps just share the what we call the red line drawing with you. So, yeah, the legislation requires that applicants outline their site in red, the application site, and any other property they own in blue. So I would assume that they own this part of the front here. I mean, the red line does extend back here, but I don't know whether they own all of the glass houses in that we saw on the aerial photograph. So I'll just go back to. So yes, the application only relates to that red area there. So I don't know whether they own these glass houses here as well.
Thank you.
Right. So,
Sorry, Chairman, can we ask the agent just to confirm?
Sorry, we've got drawings that we've submitted showing the red box and then the big blue box. It's like an 8 to 10 acre site of glass, of which we're proposing 2, which is then reduced footprint. You've got all the drawings.
right, so my understanding is that the applicants own the whole area around this particular area that they're looking to change into storage units. Is that correct? But my real comments were going to be around highway safety and the Sedge Green area. The roads there are causing a lot of concern to residents living in the area already. Bringing in that number of storage units, the indication from the transport survey suggests that there won't be a huge amount of movement. But I can't imagine that that number of storage units are not going to be at least being accessed at least once, twice a day by each of them. So on highway safety grounds and the concerns of residents living in the area, I would be very concerned to see that what looks like what could be a considerable amount of increase in traffic in the area. And I'm afraid I couldn't support this application at the moment. And also the previous comments being made about the policies as they stand, I think that is something that perhaps at some point will be looked again, but we're looking at it as at this moment in time.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Kane.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is very difficult for us, Chairman, because to be honest with you, we needed to protect the businesses. We need to give them a chance to survive. On the other hand, we've got a problem with the policy. I'm really struggling here to come to a conclusion, to be honest with you. I don't know what to do, really. It's been very difficult.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Chairman, I just would like to raise one point with regards to the highways. It would be my understanding that if they're moving away from the horticultural industry and to storage, it would be interesting to see that potentially there might be more vehicles, but they'd be a lot smaller in size, because I know of that area in particular, the size of the vehicles travelling around there at the moment to service the greenhouses are huge, great articulated vehicles, which is causing huge problems in the whole area, just purely by the size and weight of them. So I think it would be, we have to acknowledge the use is going to change the highway activity. I can't say whether it would be more or less, but I would be fairly confident that they would certainly be smaller, as they wouldn't be fitting into the greenhouse. Would be my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Actually, can I clarify that with the officer? Is it purely storage, or is it storage and distribution under this class?
Well, class B8 is for storage and distribution, so it's a single-use class.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Kane.
Is there a way, I would like to ask the officer if we could actually restrict or but there is no way of controlling that. Or how could we actually judge how many vehicles can come? Is there anything that we can do to restrict that, or nothing at all?
I think it would be very difficult to restrict the number of vehicles. It might be, size is something that we do sometimes restrict, and you can put a planning condition on that restricts the tonnage or the size of a vehicle. Yes, that's possible.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. At the beginning, you said about there had been another report to do with highways, which you didn't bring to us. So I'm thinking, first of all, highways objected, and so I gather now that they're not objecting. So is that possible to ask if the applicant has had that? Why shouldn't we know it? Because if it's a change of what they were saying before, how are we supposed to make a decision if we haven't got the facts?
Well, the report was written and the agenda was published based on the information we had submitted to us at the time. So, like I said, there was additional information sent through to us over the last week or so, but that has not been assessed at all.
Thank you. Councillor Helen-Kane.
Just a suggestion, Chairman. Can we defer it until we have all the documents in front of us and we can make, you know, a proper decision? Just asking.
Yes, well, that's up to members, but obviously what happens is that we have documents submitted to us, we assess them, or we send them off to a transport assessment, and some of it goes off to Essex County Council. If we then publish an agenda, the report is there, and we've not had time to assess the other documents. So if members wish to defer, then we could do that. But I should just point out again, it'll have to go to DDMC if members have the information, then decide to make a favourable decision. So, but we can certainly look at a deferral.
I'm sorry, just for my information, if we actually defer it, it still has to go to the DDMC?
Yes. No, only if we go against the officer's recommendation when it comes back to us.
Can I propose then to defer it until we have all the documents in front of us, please? If anybody...
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Oates. Right, the proposal then is to defer this application until all the assessments have been called in. All those in favour of deferral?
That's 9, Chairman.
All those against?
It's 1, Chairman.
Abstentions?
2 abstentions. You can't vote. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That application has then been deferred. We now move on to agenda item 10, which is planning application EPF/2417/22 at 67 Palmer's Grove, Nasing, Waltham Abbey, EN9 2QE on pages 29 to 38 of your agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, like you say, this is 67 Palmer's Grove in Nasing, and this is an application for a one-bedroom bungalow, two-person bungalow of around 57 square metres. So this is the application site in red over here with the donor house, which is number 67 in blue. This is an aerial photograph, and the red X there marks the existing garage that is on site at the moment that is proposed to be demolished to accommodate the new house. This is the current street view with the garage over there. And these are the plans of the existing house, front and side elevation, the rear elevations and side elevation. and the existing plans just showing the garage and the donor house. So this is the proposed block plan showing the new dwelling to be situated over here. Like I say, it's around 57 square meters, which is in accordance or slightly exceeds the minimum space standards for a one-bedroom, two-person dwelling. You will see that there are 2 parking spaces accommodated on the front. The garage that is over here will be demolished, but there is space for 2 vehicles in front of the donor house, and we have cycle storage proposed at the back and bin storage here at the front and there at the back. This is a slightly more detailed drawing, just showing you the cycle racks, the driveway, and the bin storage. Now, we have previously refused a planning application at this location for a slightly smaller house that was set back around 700 centimeters or a meter from this area over here. And officers feel that this dwelling as proposed is an unwelcome proposal in terms of both the street view. It's set well in front of the donor building at this location, and it's also right up against number 69 here, and it is felt that the outlook from number 69 as well from number 67 will be negatively impacted by the proposal. This is what the proposed dwelling will look like from the street, with concrete tiles and brick to match the existing brickwork and roof materials at number 67. As members can see on, I think, page 34, there were also some personal circumstances mentioned, which is discussed in the report. Overall, the conclusion, though, is that the recommendation is that permission is refused for the 3 reasons on page 36. You will note that condition 3 is the standard reason for refusal relating to the SAC, which is obviously something that can be overcome by the signing of a Section 106 agreement. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Andrew. We do have a public speaker on this, and that's Janet Jackman. If I remind you, you've got 3 minutes to state your case.
Can I just add that it was Nigel AV that called into this committee, and he's not here tonight, so basically he can't actually put his views over. He actually called this to the committee, and he's not here, so...
Well, unfortunately, that's beyond our control.
Yeah, it just seems a bit unfortunate, really, because he's actually been round the house as well, so he, you know, he might have put it forward, and he's not here. So I don't, you know, oh well.
If just state your case in support of the application.
Okay. Can I just say that Jake's house has got 3 spaces, not 2. Right. Good evening. Jake can't be here tonight because he has COVID. We've never done planning like this before, so, you know, we don't know the procedure. My son Jake lives at 67. Myself and my husband would like to move into the bungalow because of my husband's back problems and knee issues. Stairs are getting a problem as my husband gets older, and he had to retire 6 years ago due to his problems. He's not at a pension age for another 3 years, so we are living off savings. We'd like to downsize from our semi to a bungalow, and we would like to live next door to Jake because it is very important to us because he could help us in the future. Mr. Farrell based his decision on Google Earth with bad angles as he didn't go to the site to visit on both occasions. If he had come out, he would have seen this, which is much clearer and bigger in size in person. You can clearly see there is no blocking of greenbelt views due to fencing, which is someone's garden. The picture he is using is not showing fencing clearly because of a big bush in the way, so he has just zoomed. The new bungalow is 57.5 metres. The current garage is 35 metres, and around 20 metres of outbuildings were knocked down, so effectively very similar meterage is being rebuilt. Plot of land is 230 square metres. Rear garden is 90 square metres, and the front garden, including parking, is 80 metres. 22 Palmer's Grove, 200 yards up the road, got permission for a 3-bedroom house with 3 floors, making the house next door a terraced house, which is the only terraced house in the street. On Hoe Lane, a few hundred yards away, a property called the Bungalow got permission for 3 new 3-storey detached houses which overlook gardens just metres away. Also, the cramped development opposite Naysbury Parade, where the old petrol station has had 6 houses built on all the boundary lines with only 6 car spaces. Effectively, under permitted development, Jake could as big as a bungalow on the side of 2 metres from the boundary and not having sleeping accommodation, which is silly. No objection has been from the highways, no objection by the Parish Council, no objections by 10 residents, letters were sent to, no objections by land drainage, no objection by contaminated land. My neighbours are happy for the bungalow to be built. 45-degree angle, outlook of 69 is not obstructed at all. The bungalow will fit the street seen perfectly. Most of the houses are built on a stagger due to the bend in the road, so the new bungalow could be in a keeping with the road and other properties.
Thank you. If you can
The
start...
new bungalow
Thank
will
you.
be...
Hello, excuse me. Yes, if you can just wind up quickly, I'll give you a little bit of leeway because you did hesitate starting.
Okay, the new bungalow will be 1 metre away from 67 to form the access for 67, 1 metre away from 69 to access the new bungalow. There is also a distance of 1.8 metre from number 69 and a fence, so there will be a total of approx 2.8 metre between 69. There will be greenage planted. I really do feel if the planner had come to look at the property, the planning would not have been refused. It is very important for us to be near our son, and I do hope that you will, look at this. Somebody, if you refuse it, then for somebody to come out and
Thank you very much
see the
indeed.
proper diagram of it.
Turn your microphone off, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members. Councillor Matthews.
Could I just ask for the street scene photograph to be put up again, please? And then, okay, thank you. And then if we could look at the layout, the overview, because I know the planning officer said about it being in front of that house. But yeah, that one, sorry. Go.
Sorry.
That one, yeah, that's it. Oh, sorry, go back. The aerial photograph, basically. There, yeah. Okay, so I was just trying to see how they were all staggered. Okay. Yeah, from my point of view, I can't see why it being slightly further forward would be an issue, because each one is slightly further forward than the last. But yeah, I just wanted to have another look at them for now, if that's okay. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Avey did ask if he could call this one in. I'm not sure why he's not here tonight. He was down to come, so obviously something untoward has happened. I know the road quite well, and yes, everything is staggered down that road. There's a lot of bungalows down that road, and we all need new bungalows nowadays. There's not many about, and you can never find one for anyone. So this is a bungalow on the end of another lot of bungalows in an open space between, which is obviously infilling. I think the main thing we need to look at here is it a sensible property for that area? It's only a 1-bedroom bungalow. It's not a big thing. And as I say, I know number 20, they did build a more or less double the size of the house and put one on the side. So To be honest, I looked at this one, I've read it through. I don't really have a problem with it. But I'll leave it to the other committee members.
Councillor Sarti.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, like Councillor Bassett, I looked through the application. I looked at the Google Earth pictures as well, the street scene. And I couldn't really see a strong case against this application. We always have said in the past about the need for bungalows within the district. If we were going to be granting or putting it forward for approval, I would certainly be putting in a condition that no remove permitted development rights. But it is a need. There is a need for bungalows. Admittedly, this one isn't going to be coming on the open market, but it still at some point does add to the bungalow housing stock for the district. And again, I can't see that it's going to affect the street scene because it isn't a straight street scene. It's already, as Councillor Matthews said, there is a variation in the layout of the houses along the street. So I did notice that the application that was put in it was refused at the beginning of 2022, has gone to appeal. I'm assuming that appeal decision has not been reached on that one yet.
Not that I know of, Councillor.
Councillor Sam Cane.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I must confess, when I read this last night, I tended to agree with the officer. But having now seen the photographs of the street scene and the overhead shots, it does actually fit in with the street scene. It didn't come across in the report, but looking at it, I can't see how this would be inappropriate.
Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm agreeing with other members. Having looked at the presentation, it seems that the bungalow would be fitting in that space quite well. Doesn't seem to have, from my perspective, doesn't seem to have any negative, harmful, overbearing visual impact on that neighbouring property. You could see the sight lines, which I presume was taken from the window of the neighbouring bungalow, and you know it was not impacting at all. With regards to the greenbelt land, again, you know, it's garden space at the moment. It's had the outbuildings. It's got the garage space on there. I just think that it seems a sensible use of the space. I think that we do need to obviously look at the conditions if we're minded to approve. But for me, at the moment, I'm thinking that that's a sensible decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pugsley.
It's got to be a fine at least.
It's getting louder. Yeah, basically I can't see a reason to refuse this. I actually walked round, I live around the corner, so I know it well anyway, but the road itself is a hill, and even with, judging from the distances and, you know, measuring from the panels between the house and the bungalow, it's going to be set back. You've got the house here, the bungalow number 69 is here, and the bungalow they're hoping to build is kind of midway almost to the like the front of number 69. It fits quite well. I think it would look actually quite nice, and it feels quite an unpleasant gap, honestly. There's a tall fence at the back with the top of trees. That's the only bit of green belt that you can actually see, the very top of trees at the moment anyway. I think that I can't see a reason why it would be refused. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Cane.
Having listened to my colleagues here, could I propose that we actually approve this with suitable criteria? Conditions, that's the word I was hunting for. Thank you.
Removal of permitted development.
Indeed.
Do we have to turn down the opposite?
We'll go for that now.
Sorry, because you've made a recommendation, it needs to be seconded, and then you can take that.
Right.
So you can now vote on that. I don't know whether Andrew wants to... Was the conditions?
Yes, so I've got a list of about 8 or 9 conditions prepared if members want me to run through them quickly. I mean, the specific wording can be delegated to officers, but the first is the usual time limit one that needs to be on there for statutory reasons. The second one will be the approved drawings, which is what we usually put on. The officer has suggested that in terms of materials, we just get some documentary and photographic details of exactly the type. Like I said in the presentation, the proposal is to match the roof tiles and the bricks with the adjacent house, so it's up to members to decide whether they want to have further materials submitted. There's a surface water drainage condition, which is also a standard condition we put on new development, and also the land contamination standard ones. The officer is also suggesting wheel washing, construction hours, and the removal of permitted development rights. And then there will have to be a unilateral undertaking, a Section 106 agreement for the appropriate contributions for the SAC. And then we also would propose an informative that just informs the applicant that they need to contact Essex Highways to make sure that any works to the highway is done appropriately.
Thank you. So the proposal is that, to grant permission with those conditions added. Is that correct? Right, so all those in favour of supporting the application, please show.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. That application is therefore approved.
Chairman, that's approved and doesn't need to go to DDMC, just to double check. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, agenda item 11 is planning application EPF stroke 2628 stroke 22, land at Winston Farm, Hoe Lane, Nazing, Waltham Abbey, EN9 2RJ, on pages 39 to 48 of the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can't see you. But...
Can't see you, Jackie, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can see my face on the screen, so is it something your end, or should I continue?
Your presentation is ready to go. Thanks.
Oh, cool. Thank you. All right. Item 11 relates to an application seeking permission for the demolition of the existing bridge and erection of a new prefabricated steel bridge with brick piers inset with railings. This slide shows the location plan with the application outlined in red. The southern part of the site contains a bungalow. You may recall the planning permission has been given by this committee last month for this building to be replaced by a house. The site is located to the south of Hoe Lane and to the west of Winston Farm. The surrounding area is characterised by a variety of residential and commercial uses. This application is being called in by Councillor Bassett. The northern part of the site contains a stream running through it, through a wooded area. This section of the site falls within the Nazing and South Roydon Conservation Area. It's protected by a blanket tree preservation order along with one veteran tree. It also falls within flood zones 2 and 3, and the land is designated as Greenbelt. This slide shows a Google image of the site entrance, and you can just see the bridge in the middle of the photo. This slide shows the existing timber deck bridge, which has no railings, and it covers an area of 2.35 metres wide by 8.5 metres deep. This slide shows the proposed site plan with the bridge just there, just over the river. This slide shows details of the proposed bridge. The new prefabricated steel bridge measures 4.2 metres wide by 7.5 metres long. The new bridge will also have 1.2 metre high railings between 1.5 metre high brick piers. The recommendation for refusal reflects the delegated decision already made under reference EPF 3038 of 21. 8 protected trees will have their crowns lifted to provide a 4-metre clearance over the driveway. This slide shows the current location of the vehicular access along the eastern boundary. This slide demonstrates that there's an alternative access available into the site, which would not harm the views of the woodland within the conservation area. This slide shows views of the old access over the stream looking south from Hull Lane towards the existing bungalow. As you can see, currently it's made of wood and has no sidewalls. While relatively modern in date, the existing bridge structure is sympathetically designed with a simple functional appearance in traditional materials. As such, it appears subservient within its sensitive context. There's no objection to a replacement bridge that would be better supported and safer to use. However, any proposed development within the site would be expected to remain sympathetically passive, subdued, and informal in order to ensure the green, largely unbuilt character and appearance of this section of the site is preserved in line with conservation policies. Since the proposed bridge is doubling in width and would allow two-way traffic, resulted in intensified use of the main entrance to the site, creating a more conspicuous suburban feature in an otherwise rural scene, is considered to be contrary to Greenbelt policy. The introduction of a metal structure is considered to be at odds with the unspoilt portion of this site and cause harm to the strong rural character and appearance of this part of Nazin and South Roydon conservation area. It's for these reasons that the proposal has a recommendation for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I do apologise for the audio, although I've got no control over it whatsoever. So you're not actually speaking on this, are you? You are. You're not actually on my list.
Are you happy for him to speak, Chairman?
Normal rules then. Thank you.
Members, this evening we have an application to replace an old timber unsafe vehicular bridge to a site which has recently been granted planning permission. Having read the planning officer's report, we are concerned of the recommendation and the reasons why. Due to the increased width, the bridge would have a conspicuous impact and detract from the character of the appearance of the greenbelt. The development lacks sufficient justification for the proposed replacement bridge. The proposal is for a horizontal bridge. There is no visual impact to the openness of the greenbelt. The only visual impact is a simple railing to both sides of the bridge for safety reasons. It has minimal impact. The width of the bridge has been increased to deal with a new vehicular access for modern cars. The previous bridge was too narrow. There are no concerns by the tree officer, who raises no objections. There is reference to potential bat roosting. No trees are being removed and the works are at low level across the brook. Birds can still forage in the trees. Land drainage have not raised any objections in view that the bridge will be built on or near an environmental designated main river. The planners are concerned about the urban sprawling. This is a replacement bridge, not a building in the greenbelt. To serve a dwelling, there is no urban sprawl. We request the committee members this evening overturn the recommendation for refusal on the basis that this proposal has no impact on the greenbelt and the new access bridge is a replacement structure. Thank you.
Thank you. If I start with Councillor Bassett, as he called it in, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, we discussed all of this area at the last meeting when we discussed the bungalow. If we looked at the picture, the existing bridge is just wooden, it's dangerous, it's very, very old and needs replacing. It's as simple as that. For modern cars, they are wider, we all know that. And without any side railings, it will be very easy in pitch black, because there's no street lights, to suddenly find you're in the ditch instead. Now, it's a bridge. It's an old wooden bridge. You've only got to look at Broxbourne Rail Bridge, so they're just replacing that one after 100 years, and that's causing mayhem, but we shan't go there. All we're trying to do here, from what I can see, is replace an old bridge with ones that meet modern standards. And I think that's the important thing here. You've got to have a modern standard. It's not really going to interfere. There's industrial all up the side of it, so it's not exactly going to be out of character. There's opposite the end of the road, there is another industrial site with earth moving and God knows what else goes on. So it's just a replacement bridge. It's nothing special. It's not massively fancy awnings and God knows what else. It's just to get on the land. And that's all it is.
Thank you. Councillor Lepper?
Yeah, looking at the pictures, it seems to me that replacing that existing timber bridge with a steel structure is going to look pretty ugly, I think, given the surroundings. So I'm wondering why they just can't replace the existing bridge with another modern wooden bridge. It would look much nicer.
Councillor Samcombe?
Need a little bit of help here, a bit of clarification. The bridge itself takes us from the bungalow that's there, or the bungalow site, across into a woodland area, and then goes where? Out onto the main road? Or did I see a picture of... So this is an alternate entrance to the bungalow site, which has a perfectly good one coming off a new road built around the side of the bungalow. If we saw the picture that was presented, if we could see that again from the street, there are... it was a pretty narrow entrance onto that driveway heading towards the bridge, and it was flanked by 2 trees. I believe the bridge has been specified at 4 metres wide. Modern car or not, I don't see too many modern cars at 3.5 metres wide, unless you count some particularly large army vehicles. It's what happens next. Just the bridge in and of itself is no real big problem, and that's what we're being asked to determine. It's what happens next. We can just have a look at that. See, that's a pretty narrow entrance. I defer to local councillors on that. I don't know if that would present a problem, cars swinging in and out of there.
Definitely not, because you've got, coming from the other side of the road, you've got the big earth-moving lorries that swing round out the front there. So that is, those bollards there are just trying to protect the side of the road to stop someone, should we say, going off into the ditch. So they're marking the ditch that comes down there, because it does get quite flooded on that road by flash flooding coming down that road. But to be honest, there wouldn't be any problems getting in and out of there. It's just a very old bridge.
Councillor Lucas?
I mean, from my perspective, that is the original main access point. I think if that was my house, I would be looking to reinstate that access point. Accessing off the back side road was obviously added secondary when the bridge was no longer able to be used. I think it makes perfect logical sense to replace the bridge. It is just looking at the bridge, and if members believe that that's suitable replacement or not. I don't think it's got any drastic impact on the openness of the green belt, but it is significantly wider. But we do have significantly wider vehicles, but maybe not 4 metres. I appreciate that, but from my perspective, I think it'd be nice to reinstate the original entrance point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews?
Thank you, Chairman. I share the opinion of other members. On the face of it, we'll replace a bridge for a bridge. Yeah, well, I've got no issue with this whatsoever. My only slight concern is about the need for it to be 4.2 metres wide, because I may be wrong, but the gap between those pillars there is the width of a single track which a car fits up now, which doesn't look like 4.2 metres wide to me. So why would you then need something wider the other side of that? You're never going to get through. Yeah.
So I think we take it that the 4.2 metres is the actual complete deck width. So you've got the balustrades, and so that will reduce it down to probably 3 metres something. So the actual deck area that it crosses is not much wider.
Is that width to the outside of the piers? Have we got a design of the brick, actual design?
Not that he showed us.
Also.
Yeah, we'll just call up a detailed design for you.
While we're waiting for that, is there anyone else? Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wonder if I could have some officer clarification of why the development would need sufficient justification for the proposed replacement of an existing bridge. Surely it's the landowner's decision as to whether it needs replacing and the officer's decision as to whether it's legal to replace it.
Sam? Sam?
Same, mine.
I beg your pardon?
Councillor Lee.
I believe Richard said about there's flooding there, so I can't see why they wouldn't want to put a metal bridge, because surely a wooden bridge, if there's flooding there, would eventually rot again. So I have no objection to it being a metal bridge.
Councillor Epping.
Yeah, just further to the materials. I mean, do people actually still make bridges from wood and timber, or are they, in the modern world, always made out of, always metallic? I don't know, so...
I've no idea. I've never looked to buy a bridge. Any further members while we're still waiting for the plan to come up? I mean, personally, yeah, if the bridge is, you can see the tyre tracks on it, it's quite close to the edge. I think I'd be quite nervous driving over that, so, yeah.
So check on that. So
Right, sorry. Yeah, so it's 4.2 metres. That's the length of it, plus the width of the railings and piers, or the thickness of the piers, so which is probably just under 50 centimetres.
So the length is 4 metres.
Chair, if I may. So yeah, it is wider than 4.2. It's 4.2 of the opening plus the piers.
Yeah, I'll just measure it.
Yeah. But it's fine. You can see from now. I mean, obviously the length is the length. That's whatever size you need to cover the area. But I mean, it just seems. I don't know why you would need 4.2.
Can I?
No,
So it's 4.6 in total.
If I can ask.
So,
go on.
So yeah, it's 4.6 the width of it in total.
Do you concur with that? That is actually these are accurate. Yeah, the drawings are accurate. So the actual usable deck width is 4.2, and the overall is 4. Whatever that's 7.
4.2, you get a lorry over that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it is quite big. Right, members, if there's no more, shall we take this to a vote? The officer's recommendation is to refuse this replacement bridge. All those in favour of refusal?
One, Chairman.
All those against?
Wait a minute, sorry. Punches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, Chairman.
Abstentions?
2. Okay. Yeah, 2.
Do we have a motion then to move forward on this one? Councillor Bassett.
Got a press me button. I propose we approve this with all the normal conditions that I don't know what the normal conditions would be for building a bridge.
We live it somewhere.
Just like before, we've come prepared, so if members are so minded, we can just run you through some proposed conditions.
Right, could I just take Councillor Matthews?
I was just going to say, in regards to, are we allowed to put condition on anything to do with the width of the track through the forest. My concern is a bigger bridge is going to lead to another application for something bigger coming down the line. If there was, I don't know if that's allowed or not.
Councillor Kane?
I think in response to Councillor Matthews' question there, I think the trees do that, restrict that lane, and looking at the pictures, the trees will stop any expansion above that range, and there are a blanket tree protection order down there, I think.
Yeah, and I think the granite blocks help as well, that mark the edge of the ditch. Sorry, Andrew.
Yes, Chairman. So Suki can read some proposed conditions, and the members can have a vote on if that's what you wish. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, so the standard conditions, time, 3 years, plan numbers, because it's over a river, a preliminary ecological assessment, and just details of any lighting, tree protection, retention of existing trees and shrubs, no unbound materials to any surface treatment, any gates provided at the vehicle access shall be inward opening. So any gates would require additional permission if they're over 1 metre. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you. Just Councillor Helen Kane.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but within there was a couple of things that I found a bit peculiar. Maybe I'm not... lighting. What is this to do with the lighting?
To protect bats, there's a high likelihood of bats being within the trees. Given that there should be lighting that doesn't affect their habitats.
Excuse me, there is no light proposed, so I don't understand.
If there is, there's just a protection. If there is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one is the assessment. Surely when somebody puts an application, they produce an assessment about the environment and ecological.
No, they don't have to. Not for a householder, they don't have to.
I didn't understand. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand.
It's a householder application, so the validation requirements aren't as strict for a new house. So, but the legal requirements on the council are still the same. So we still have a duty to protect bats. And given that there is a stream and a wood on the site, which are indicators that there may be protected species on the site, that's why that condition is there. And it may come back and find that there's nothing there, then we've discharged our duty.
Thank you. So can I take it then that when the assessment was done for the house that was approved at the last meeting, that assessment doesn't cover that bridge?
We haven't received it yet, so...
Oh, right, sorry, I understand. Yeah. Thank you.
But if it were, then, and if they included both of them, that's fine, yeah.
Yes, right, thank you. So one would cover both?
Yeah. Well, if it was included in the description, that covers the whole area, yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Right, members, have we a seconder for the proposal? Councillor Kane, thank you. Right, so the proposal is to grant permission for replacement of this bridge with conditions as delegated to the officers. All those in favour?
Ten, Chairman.
All those against?
None, Chairman.
Abstentions?
2.
Thank you. Therefore, that application has been approved. That doesn't need to go to the EDMC, does it? Right, thank you. Exclusion of public and press.
No, Chairman.
Thank you. That being that, I close this meeting at 14 minutes past 8. Thank you.